What was the first satellite ever launched into space? The first satellite ever launched into space was Sputnik 1 by the Soviet Union on October 4, 1957. This historic event marked the beginning of the space age. The cost of building and launching Sputnik 1 was about 83,000 US dollars, which is approximately 800,000 US dollars today. How do satellites stay in orbit? Satellites stay in orbit due to a balance between their forward velocity and Earth's gravitational pull. As a satellite moves forward at high speed, Earth's gravity continuously pulls it toward the planet, creating a curved path that keeps the satellite in orbit. Currently, more than 2,000 satellites are orbiting Earth. What are the main functions of satellites? Satellites serve various crucial functions. 1. Communication. Transmit radio, TV, internet, and telephone signals across long distances. 2. Weather forecasting. Track storms and provide data for predicting weather and climate changes. 3. Navigation. GPS satellites are essential for navigation systems in smartphones, planes, ships, and cars. 4. Earth observation. Capture images and data of Earth's surface for monitoring environmental changes, urban development, agriculture, and disaster response. 5. Scientific research. Study phenomena like solar activity and cosmic radiation. 6. Military and defense. Provide surveillance, secure communication, and early warning of missile launches. 7. Space exploration. Explore other planets, moons, and celestial bodies, sending back valuable data. 8. Environmental monitoring. Track deforestation and pollution, etc. How do satellites communicate with Earth? Communication involves several steps. Transmission. Ground stations send signals encoded with data to the satellite using large antennas. Reception. The satellite receives the signals through its onboard antennas. 3. Relay. The satellite processes the signals and transmits them back to Earth. Reception on Earth. Ground stations receive the signals using satellite dishes and decode the data. How are satellites powered? Satellites use solar panels made of photovoltaic cells to convert sunlight into electricity. These cells are made of silicon and absorb photons from sunlight. Even in its shadow, satellites have batteries powered by solar panels. They also have power management systems to regulate electricity, ensuring all onboard systems receive the necessary power. What materials are satellites made of? Aluminium, used for satellite structural framework due to its lightweight and strength. Titanium, used in parts that need high durability and resistant to extreme temperatures. Silicon, used in photovoltaic cells. Ceramics, used in various components for resistance to high temperatures and radiation. Gold and silver coatings, applied to reflect heat and protect sensitive instruments from solar radiation. How are satellites launched into space? The launch process involves several steps. Development. The satellite is carefully constructed and tested. Launch vehicle. The satellite is integrated with a rocket. The launch pad. Rocket launch pads are made of reinforced concrete covered with heavy steel plates to resist heat and erosion. They have water deluge systems that spray high pressure water to cool the pad and reduce fire risk and noise. Countdown and ignition. The launch sequence begins with a countdown. Once the rocket engines are ignited, it lifts off. Ascent. The rocket travels upward, overcoming its gravity and atmospheric resistance. Stage separation. As each stage uses its fuel, it is jettisoned and the next stage ignites. Deployment. Once the rocket reaches the desired orbit, the satellite is deployed. The payload fairing is jettisoned and the satellite is released into space. Orbit insertion. The satellite's onboard thrusters or the rocket's final stage perform maneuvers to place the satellites into its specific orbit. Operations. After deployment, the satellite activates its systems, unfolds its solar panels, and begins its mission, sending signals back to Earth. What is the difference between geostationary and low Earth orbit satellites? Geostationary satellites orbit approximately 35,786 kilometers above Earth's equator and stay fixed over one spot, making them ideal for communication, weather monitoring, and broadcasting. Low Earth orbit satellites orbit between 160 to 2,000 kilometers above sea level and move quickly relative to Earth's surface. They often work in groups constellation to provide continuous global coverage. How do satellites help in space exploration? Satellites gather crucial data about celestial bodies, relay communication between space missions, assist in navigating spacecraft, and provide detailed views of phenomena such as star formation, black holes, and cosmic radiation. They also test and validate technologies that will be used in future. What are some of the most famous satellites in history? Sputnik 1, launched by the Soviet Union in 1957, marking the beginning of the space age. Hubble Space Telescope, launched in 1990, provides providing detailed images of space and revolutionizing astronomy. Voyager 1, launched in 1977 by NASA, the farthest human-made object from Earth, over 24 billion kilometers away, still sending data from the edge of the solar system. Luna 3 captured the first images of the moon's far side in 1959. TESS, Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellite, launched in 2018 by NASA, identified over 5,000 suspected exoplanets and confirmed more than 200. What happens to satellites when they stop working? Decommissioning. Geostationary satellites are moved to a higher orbit away from active satellites, which means they will be decommissioned from their orbit where they used to be. Controlled re-entry. Low Earth orbit satellites deorbited to re-enter Earth's atmosphere over unpopulated areas, burning up any remaining debris falling into the ocean. Space debris. Non-functional satellites become space debris if not decommissioned. End of life operations include shutting down systems and communicating their final status to ground control. Operational continuation. Some satellites remain in orbit and drift until they naturally re-enter Earth's atmosphere due to atmospheric drag, with most burning up upon re-entry. How do military satellites differ from commercial satellites? Military satellites designed for defense and national security tasks with advanced sensors, high-resolution imaging, secure communication systems, and encrypted communication. Commercial satellites serve commercial needs such as telecommunication and broadcasting, often protected but not the same security level as military satellites. Military satellites orbit in various orbits based on mission needs, while commercial satellites orbit in geostationary and low Earth orbits for commercial functions. What advances are being made in satellite technology? Miniaturization, development of CubeSats and small satellites. High-resolution imaging provides sharper, more detailed images. Advanced propulsion systems, electric propulsion and ion thrusters for precise orbit adjustments. High data throughputs, advanced antennas and data processing technologies. On-orbit servicing, refueling, repairing, and upgrading satellites in space. Synthetic aperture radar captures high-definition images regardless of weather and light conditions. In-orbit manufacturing, building satellites in space to reduce launch costs. Satellite management, improved tracking and collision avoidance systems. AI and machine learning, real-time data analysis and autonomous operation. Quantum communication, exploring quantum encryption technologies for secure communication. What is the most expensive satellite so far? The James Webb Space Telescope, costing around 10 billion US dollars, designed to explore the universe's early stages and formation. What is the fuel used in the rockets of satellites? Basically, there are two types of fuels: liquid fuels and solid fuels. Liquid fuels examples will be liquid oxygen, LS2, and liquid hydrogen combined together, or RP1, which is basically refined kerosene. Solid fuels example could be solid propellants, prepacked mixtures of fuel and oxidizers. Why was Yuri Gagarin chosen to go into space? Yuri Gagarin was selected for his exceptional pilot skills, physical and psychological suitability, rigorous training, and fit for the spacecraft's confined space. His mission on April 12, 1961 made him the first human to orbit Earth. Which country has the highest number of satellites in space? The United States, with approximately 1,000 to 1,200 satellites in orbit. How many Indian satellites are there in space? India has around 300 satellites in space. How do engineers determine the right amount of fuel for launching a satellite? Engineers calculate the mission needs and use the Tsiolkovsky rocket equation, a mathematical formula to determine the required fuel based on the rocket's weight and distance. They also plan for different stages and include extra fuel for safety.